Hello, everyone. Welcome to Akasa Living, and we have none other than Shelly Roman with us. Hello, Shelly. How are you doing?
Hey, Misha. Hey, everybody.
It is so good to have you here. Let me get this music shut off so we can talk. And it is just so good to have you. I want to let everyone know up front how they reach you. Shelly is an author. She is a speaker. She's a trainer, and she is a co-walker committed to helping others. And she is, of course, the one who has Sacred Ground Walk. And Shelly, we will put the banner back up before it's over, but it is just Shelly's my friend. That's the easiest way for me to describe who Shelly is. Shelly is my high vibe friend that every time that I'm anywhere that Shelly is at or I feel Shelly's energy, I just feel good. And so that's the main reason I enjoy Shelly so much and wanted to have Shelly on is because I knew that just having Shelly on the show meant that her energy would touch all of you and you all would get that same experience I do. You'd be touched by Shelly. So that's why I really wanted to have you on, is just because your energy is always so inspiring. So welcome to the show, Shelly.
Thank you, Misha. It is so good to be here. And yes, you are my friend and somebody who I've met on this journey. And one thing we were talking about before we went live was how I always tell people I just get up every day and I do what source directs me to do. And what
Oh,
that I know.
I know that was my teaser before I did a video earlier today, and I said the one thing I want to be sure that Shelly tells you all before the show is over is how Shelly manages to have this amazing life she has, and that's your secret, and we can all do that.
Yes, and it's fascinating because what I do is follow my internal GPS. And
Yeah.
I access this because I learned a tool called Shift. And
Wonderful.
Shift is let's see, we'll call it a human operating system because that's when it was being developed 30 years ago. It was being developed by Kathy Hawk, who's my business coach and my friend, and she lives out in the Pacific Northwest, Bellingham, Washington. And when she yeah, and when she developed this, she worked with executives from Microsoft, Boeing, and Starbucks. And
Cool.
it was the lead engineer at Microsoft who said, "You've developed a human operating system."
A human operating system. So explain what that would mean to people. A human operating system.
Okay.
That sounds a little high tech.
Well, right. And it really works for me because I had 38 years as an engineer.
As an engineer, right?
Okay, so I'll talk about some of the things an operating system does on your computer. You can on your computer or your phone. One of the things it does is it controls which application is executing and running
Okay.
at a time.
Right.
So, like right now, we have Yardstream running,
Hmm.
but I could leave our Yardstream running and minimize it and bring up another application, right?
Right.
And you'd be
Right.
going, Shelly, where are you, Shelly?
Hmm.
So one of the things we do is think of your brain as the processor, the CPU of a computer. And
Okay.
so we are continually running different applications in there.
Okay.
One of the examples I use when I train people in Shift is back in the old days when I would commute an hour to work, I would get in my car and I would put on the news. So
Hmm.
all the way to work, I was listening to this news app. Then I would get to work and I would bring up my computer. And when I brought up my browser, one of my tabs was always the same news app. And
Yeah.
all day long, I'm checking back to the news. So there's nothing good for the most part that comes on the news.
Yeah. I was feeding that to my internal system all the time too. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. So all this negativity is being run on my CPU here.
I was doing that to myself too. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
programming myself that way too.
So that's one thing that when you learn the tools that are available in Shift, you learn to control what's better, what's in your brain, right?
Hmm.
What you're bringing in. Another thing an operating system does is what we call memory management, right? You have some things that are stored on your hard drive. Some are out in the cloud now. Some are on an external hard drive. Sometimes you have a memory stick and you have to stick it in there and then you can access it.
Right.
Sometimes there's something called the cache, which is the stuff that's really close.
Hmm.
And the computer uses the cache because it's faster to bring those things.
Right.
So we have that too. And I know for a long time, the memories that were stored in my cache and that I would bring up often were of my abuse, the trauma, what terrible thing Mesha said to me last time we talked, what this person said to me that hurt my feelings. And so those were the things that were continually coming up
Right.
in my brain.
You weren't releasing those. You were holding those close to you. You weren't
Yes.
progressing from them. You were holding them close to you.
Yes.
They were using your energetic bandwidth.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can imagine that's not helping my brain.
No.
Okay.
Right.
Another thing an operating system controls is input output. You got the keyboard where your microphone, your camera, that's the stuff that's going out. It's also the input, the stuff that I download. I let you into your videos coming into my eyes, my brain, my home.
Right.
So I remember back in my career job, and you might be able to relate to this, there was always a lot of talky,
Oh.
talky,
Oh
talky, talky.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. You know what Mesha did? You know what Shelly did? Did you hear so and so is getting promoted? Did you hear so and so was getting fired? Blah, blah, blah. And for the most part, it was a lot of negativity,
Right.
right?
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes it's about the next level of management, right? You're talking about the next level of management, the next level that you can't conceive what they're doing or what their day's like. You're acting like you can, and you're talking bad about them.
Yes.
Okay, so now with that set, all of these things are coming into your brain, and they correspond to the 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts we each have every single day. Now,
Wow.
every thought you have causes a chemical reaction in your body. That chemical reaction in your body affects how you perform.
Hmm.
So, every negative thought you have, like all that news, the gossip, the I think I know better than my boss talk, the negative memories, they create a neurochemical response that releases my adrenal glands, cortisol, and that limits my ability to perform because it reduces my performance to fight, flight, freeze.
Which is exactly what causes chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, all of those things.
Graves' disease, diabetes, all those autoimmune diseases that I started getting.
Yes.
And the thing is, that is a very important reaction in our body because if a bad guy starts breaking into the house or I'm taking a woods and if I'm on a walk in the woods and there's a tiger there, I need to be able to use that
Right.
to
Yeah,
get
that's a good response for that.
right. My heart pops faster, blood goes to my extremities, my eyes, my pupils dilate, and I can run or I can fight. The problem is that our bodies don't know the difference between a real guy trying to break in, a tiger in the woods, and the thought of a tiger in the woods.
Right.
So we have maladapted that to our bodies. Now, if you have a positive thought, what happens? Your body creates the neurochemicals, except this time it's endorphins, it's serotonin, oxytocin, all those feel good things. And what happens to your performance then? It's very expansive, it's not limited. It is it is pretty much unlimited creativity and choices. You have no idea what could happen.
I
Plus,
used
you
to
feel good,
I
right?
used to tell people in chronic pain world that I pop endorphins like some people eat candy.
Yes, yes,
Because that's what I used for my chronic pain is I used laughter and positive, anything that would generate endorphins. That's what I
yes,
did because
yes.
that's how I countered pain. Was endorphins.
That's right. And
Yes.
so another thing that happens when you create all those endorphins,
Yeah.
it causes this reaction in your pineal gland, which is in the back here, but it's reflected up here. And so your forehead or your third chakra, your sixth chakra, or your third eye
You're right.
lights up. Okay. And you see this in people, and we say it all the time. Boy, Misha's really lit up today.
Right.
And when you light up, it's because those endorphins are coming up in your body. They're talking to your pineal gland and they're lighting you up. Okay? That's where you want to stay. Now, the other thing I'll tell you is that we've most recently learned is that some of the structures inside the pineal gland are crystalline. They're crystalline structures, which is
Yes.
like a radio station.
Right.
Remember, right? Remember the old radio station where you would have to use a dial and tune it, right?
Yes.
That
Yes.
was you were using some crystals in there to get that to happen.
Right.
So think of it like when you can control that more effectively, you are like a radio beacon for what you want.
Dial it in. Tune it in.
Dial it in.
Dial it in.
So when I say now, and the shift training that I do, because once I learned it and started using it, it was so amazing. I said, I've got to learn how to teach this. So it's now become the entry point to my coaching.
Hmm.
And one of the things it does, it teaches you how to have better control over these things. Now, I have been using these tools since Halloween weekend was when I learned it, 2021. So it's been about 9 months. In that time, I have been able to go off 2 medications.
Wonderful.
Um, I have had all kinds of magic happen in my life. I feel much less fear. And basically, like I tell people, I get up every day and I just do what source guides me to do, which is really what lights me up.
Yeah.
Now, how do you know what lights you up?
That
Is
is
you
an amazing question because people ask that. They're like, and how do you know that? And then how do you get away with just doing what just lights you up? And so yes, so to talk about that. Yes, how
okay?
do we do
So,
that? What lights us up, Shelly?
well, I'll give you several pointers about that. Well, one of the tools that I talk about in my training is you have to become an energy detective. So once you start understanding what your personal field is, and that's the only thing you have 100% control over, then
Yes.
you start noticing, when my office desk is cluttered, I feel really drained. Oh, I clean it up.
Yeah.
When I talk to Mesha, I have a big smile on my face and I light up. So I'm going to talk to Mesha more. When I talk to this neighbor down the street, man, it's a drag. I feel so I'm going to not talk to him as much or minimize that. So one of the things I want, and there are some individual tools and things you do every day that don't take much time. But one of the things I started noticing within probably by January, so I started this, let's say November 1st, by January, one of the things I started noticing is that I could tell when something negative was hitting my body. For example, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I'll be doing my chores, cleaning the house, whatever, and I'm listening to podcasts. And I don't listen to the news anymore, but I do listen to some news podcasts. A lot of times that's better for me because it's after the fact, so it's calmer. But I started noticing that sometimes it wasn't calmer. And I didn't want to listen to a news program that was talking about how likely we are to have nuclear war.
Right.
And I could feel it in my body. And
Yes.
the biggest difference is I noticed the feeling. I took my phone out and I just skipped past that one.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I mean, how empowering is that? I mean, it sounds like such a little thing before, but but I never noticed it before. So I just let it keep coming in my body. Um, my husband, who was not very woo-woo, right? I will say he's not very woo-woo.
He wasn't so into this.
He just starts doing it with me because he's 100% supportive, and he looks at everything going, is there anything in here that could hurt you? No, I'll do it. Well,
Hmm.
by January, he starts coming home from work and saying things like, I'm different. I feel different. I feel different when I interact with people. He goes, I think it's this shift stuff. We started noticing um, that when we would have an argument, it was almost always because we were making assumptions about each other.
Yeah.
And some of the tools we use is about reframing how you think about things. And so we started looking at that. And now we catch the assuming before the fight starts and we start laughing.
Yeah.
And um, I think I told you I've come off a couple medicines. My diabetes numbers, my medicine has been reduced. My weight is up, but my numbers are better. Now, I'm not going to tell my doctor that I think it's because I'm changing my brain, because what we're talking about here is neuroplasticity. Now, when these tools were developed 30 years ago, there were no functional MRIs. And Kathy did it by what she would see physiologically in people.
Right.
Now, of course, we have functional MRIs, and you can literally see the brain changing.
Yes.
And when you talk about releasing like those negative memories, in the training, one of the things I show is an actual video of a functional MRI where the little neurons and synapses are moving. You're
Changes.
letting go of that and it's gone.
Literally changes.
Changing because of neurogrowth factor. There's only so many connections you can have. So you want to have the positive connections, not the negative connections.
It's the same way with chronic pain. The reason the reason we would feel pain at night, not necessarily during the day, is we only have so many receptor sites for it. So if we have things going on during the day, we would have different things like the lights and all the things going on around us plugged into our receptor sites. Well, at night, when all of those things would be not there, then the pain going on could be plugged into the receptor sites. So it's the same thing. You're choosing what you're plugging into your receptor sites. And so, because you only have so many receptor sites to be plugged into, it's the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're choosing, we are making the conscious choice, which is, of course, what we're taught with the voice program. We're making conscious choices about how to use our voices or our decisions, our all of the communication aspects of our lives and how we live. And
Right.
so we're
Right.
literally deciding what am I going to plug into and what am I not.
That's right. And we have that power. Now
Yes.
to your question about how not everything, we all have to do things that don't light us up.
Right.
So one of my stories is going to the dentist. Now I love having clean teeth,
Yeah.
but I hate going to the dentist. And I especially hate the part where they use that high vibrational tooth thing to polish your teeth because it vibrates my whole body and I think it feels very uncomfortable.
Hmm.
So one of the things I do is I sit there and in my head while she's doing it, is I think, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. And I just say it over and over and over. Because one thing we've learned is that it takes 17 seconds. You have to say it for 17 seconds to shift out of that. right? Another thing I think about is back when I had a dog and I would have to go pick up the dog poop in the yard. Okay, nobody likes I mean, maybe somebody does. I don't know.
I don't know who does, but
Right.
okay.
So one of my coaches says when she's doing that, she's thinking in her mind, peace, joy, love, 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 peace, joy, love.
So use the time that we for the things that we don't necessarily want to do to bring in positive thought patterns about
Yes.
other things.
Yes.
Okay.
Instead of really getting in like, oh, I hate this. Oh, it hurts. It hurts. It hurts. And it's just, oh, that dog shit. It smells so bad. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want this dog anymore. Just shift it because you have a choice. Because
Right.
remember, with each one of those thoughts, you're releasing that adrenal, that cortisol in your body. And you don't want to do that because
Right.
that causes disease.
So choose what you're thinking about instead so that your mind doesn't go to that thought pattern.
Right. And and some of the materials I give have come with, here, let me show an example. It comes with a lot of pairs. Here, this is what we call, I know you won't be able to see this. This is some of the materials, a choice point guide.
Oh, you can see
So
it pretty.
you see it pretty good. So here's the line. The gray is the line. And
Okay.
you want to choose above the line instead of below the line. So like if you're uncomfortable, you want, instead of being fearful, you want to try to choose trust, that kind of thing.
Okay. So instead of the denser emotions, you want to go for the lighter or the more high vibrational
Right.
ones. Yeah, I
Now,
see
it's
it.
important to know that there's no wrong. None of this is wrong.
Sure.
It's sometimes it's perfectly correct and effective to be fearful. If a
Absolutely.
bad guy's breaking in, they're fearful, but they're just more effective than others.
Right.
So, and then you also, in the material, you get this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things in here, I'll show you, we'll go to fear and trust because that's a good one.
Well, that you're hitting on me now. Fear
Yeah,
or trust.
that's fine. So here's what it says in the book. Trust is the light side of fear. If you trust yourself to follow clues and guidance, the outcomes result in actions that are grounded and solid, proactive versus reactive. Making fear based decisions results in lights off and drained outcomes. And then in the book, for each, and there's 56 pairs, there'll
Mm-hmm.
be some questions. What do I trust in myself?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. What clues am I following now? And so my husband and I, we have for each of these 56 pairs, I have a card deck, and each week we choose a card. And then for the week, we study this and discuss these questions.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It doesn't take very long. And it's led to some really wonderful discussions and some really wonderful ways to reframe what you're doing. And some really great pointers. For example, maybe you're going into a work meeting and it's going to be a regular work meeting and it might be contentious, right? You're expecting some contention. So maybe before you get to your agenda, you say, "Hey, let's start off with everybody say what they're grateful for. One thing they're grateful for." It totally shifts the feel of the room.
Changes the tone.
Changes the tone.
Changes the energy. Changes the tone. So before it ever happens, you head it off at the pass.
Right. Right, exactly. And how you can set an intention before you go into the meeting. And it can be very quick. I
Right.
intend this meeting to be effortless. I have an intention that my podcast creation with Mesha is effortless for me.
Right. Right.
And my husband has started using some of this for his men's group at his church. When they meet, he's the leader in the men's group. And when they meet, he'll say, "Hey, why didn't everybody tell me something that really worked for them yesterday and something that didn't work for them?" Just something to notice these things.
Mm-hmm.
And it has been magical. And I could tell you so many stories. Like I'll tell you one where once we were in a restaurant and we were not in a hurry, and I was getting very impatient for some reason I don't understand. And even while it was happening, I didn't understand it.
Sure.
And I was like, I asked for some more water. It took a long time to get water. Then I wanted the check. It was taking a long time to get the check. And of course, we all know that staffing is a problem. I had nowhere to be. This was just internally generated. And the server had come by and done something. And then my husband paused after he left and said, "Can I give you some feedback?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he goes, "You were really rude to that server." And I immediately went, "I said those things out loud.
You didn't even know you said them out
I
loud.
didn't even know that I voiced my thoughts."
Wow, girl. Because
Right?
that's not like you to do anyway.
No,
It's not you.
no.
Yeah.
So, one, I learned that what we're thinking is coming out one way or the other, even if we're not aware of it.
Hmm.
And two, only because my husband and I had been doing this work did he feel comfortable giving me that feedback in the moment. And three, I was able to get my butt up, find that server, go and apologize and say, "I have no idea why I'm being so impatient. You have done nothing wrong. You have been wonderful. I am so sorry I was rude to you." And
Oh,
so you could see him light up and it cleaned it up right away.
right. Right.
To me, that's magic. If I had gotten home and maybe 2 days later my husband had told me, then I would be carrying that. And so would that server. And then I would be mad at my husband, like, "Bill, why didn't you tell me? What the hell's wrong with you?" Right?
Right.
And
Or maybe never told you, and he carried around. Well, I don't know what's going on with Shelly, but she's really bitchy these days, and so
yeah,
he starts walking on eggshells because he think, or
right,
whatever. So because that's the kind of things we do is we see that somebody's not in the best of mood, and so we start assuming things about that, and then we start reacting to it, and then we build up this back and forth push pull, and then it snowballs into something that it never had to be. If we
right.
if we'd have dealt with the energy that was going on at the time, but we don't,
We
or
don't.
yeah, we don't.
We don't. And so that's a great example of things that have happened over and over again. And then he and I look at that little card and say, "Wow, we were feeling angry. And oh, I was choosing below the line. Maybe next time I could choose this." And it's a magical way to get through things. And I feel so much better.
Well, what it does is it takes what you're doing, and it doesn't make it about right or wrong. It doesn't make it personal. It makes it choices that are on a card that everybody makes. It makes you just like everyone else. It depersonalizes it. It doesn't make it Shelly's different than everybody else in the world. Only Shelly does this. Look how bad Shelly is.
Right, exactly.
Or look how bad our marriage is. We're the only people who do
Right.
this. Or it takes all of that out of the way, and it levels the playing field. And it's like, oh my gosh, look, this is how everybody functions. We're like everyone else. And if we do this, and if everybody does this, imagine what kind of place the world would be.
Exactly.
That's what it does.
Exactly.
Is it
Exactly.
reduces things down to the truth of the matter. Instead of each one of us getting in our egos and thinking it's just us and it's all about me, and I'm the one doing this and I'm the one causing this, or it's only happening to me, it shows us the level playing field, and it shows us that it's happening to all of us and that we can all do something about it, and that with mutual respect and self-respect we can change it all.
Exactly. And that's exactly why this is a 3 hour, 3.5 hour workshop. That is the entry point to my coaching. Because now once you have this, we have a common language.
A
And
common language. Right.
then when I sit with people and they might be telling me a situation in their life, I can hear the moment they drop below the line.
Right. It
Right?
gives right. And that is so much of it is we don't have common frames of references or ways that we all recognize to discuss these things, because we're not all talking apples and orange or apples and apples. We're talking apples and oranges. We all come from different backgrounds or have different perspectives of things. So we do have to have programs like this program or some other program, something that we will resonate with, that we will then adopt, as you're saying, a common language or have commonality with, so that we can discuss things and understand what the other person is saying.
Exactly.
Right. And
So
yeah, go ahead.
once we do the shift training, then the next step is to start the regular co-walking sessions. And I call my coaching co-walking because we're walking together, right? We're peers walking together. I'm not jerking you somewhere or pulling you somewhere or pushing you somewhere. We're walking together. So the next step for my clients is to do a deep core map, which is essentially a picture of what you know about yourself. Now, I don't have to see that. Usually they're in my house, but we can do it virtually too. And I'll have my flip chart up and they're working on it. I don't have to see it. I don't have to know your picture of yourself. And it's different levels of yourself, as you know, and some of those are values.
Yes.
So then what can happen is, what I have found is when I'm working with a client and they give me a situation, is typically they go below the line the moment they don't honor one of their values.
That makes perfect sense. Yes.
And I can see, for example, it's typical to have a client who is struggling at work. Maybe somebody yelled at them at work, right? And so somebody, yeah, you're doing something, somebody yells at you or speaks to you harshly, and then what happens? You're saying whatever you have to do to get out of the situation. That's very common.
Right.
Sometimes you even say things that aren't really true. You're trying to get out of the way. You're letting people speak to you in a way that is not helpful.
Right.
So you're in the middle of working, you're above the line, it's going great. This event happens, you drop below the line, and you, as soon as you're below the line, maybe you're living in fear and you're not honoring that maybe respect is one of my values, and I can't stand up for myself because I've dropped below the line and I'm living in fear or anxiety, and I'm a martyr and I just have to get out of here. And then that causes all this doubt to come in, and my heart's pounding, and I'm creating all this cortisol, and I just run away. And then what happens is they show up on my couch or on my computer screen and they start telling me what that person was thinking. That person was trying to control me. They know what's better. And it's like, okay, I spend a lot of my time saying, you have no idea what that person was thinking. Let's get back to you. The moment that happened, you dropped below the line. You were unable to honor, unless you have a value that says, let people yell at me, which you probably don't. You
Right.
weren't honoring the value. So that's the broken part right there. So then the work is to find a way to honor that value, to stay above the line and not drop below the line. Does that make sense?
It does. And it starts with understanding that we don't know what someone else is thinking. So the minute we start reacting to what we think someone else is thinking,
Right.
it's there's the issue. It's we
Right.
only control us. We only know what we're thinking, feeling. So if something is happening that's causing us to react in a way that's not within one of our values, that's the issue. As long as we're staying in our values, we're fine.
And we don't know how to stand up for our values. No one ever taught us that. We don't have the language for that.
Because all we were taught is how that's societally wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just behave, be a good girl or a good little boy, and do whatever your boss says. You don't want to be fired, and blah, blah, blah.
Don't make waves.
Don't make waves. Don't
Right.
be too sensitive. And what is that? That's all lights off.
Right. And so we end up with this cycle of we come in, we do something, and then we back off. We, so and especially if it's something we have to do, we come in, we do what we have to do, then we retreat. Come in, do what
Exactly.
we have to do, and retreat. Come in, do what we have to do, and retreat. And then we build up this this wall where we're by ourselves mostly, and we just show up for what we have to, and the rest of the time we're an island unto ourselves, and
Exactly.
we've created this whole fantasy of what all these people think about us and how all these people treat us and what reality out there is.
Right.
And we don't know for sure that that's what it is, because we really don't know what other people are thinking or what's behind their actions.
We have no idea.
We really
have
don't
no idea. The only thing we have control over is our personal field, which is about your arm's distance all the way around here. That's what you have control over. And so that is my coaching. That's what I do. That's what I try to help people with. That's what I try to do myself. And so following the clues, or like I say, follow how source directs me, is basically just doing what lights me up every day. If I start feeling like I'm exhausted, okay, that's a clue I need to go to bed.
You and I have that one down. We're good at messaging each other and saying, I'm going to have to take a nap.
I gotta take a nap.
We're good at that, aren't we? Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's right. But I spent most of my life feeling shame because I needed to rest so much.
Yeah.
And really, I now know I just need lots of solitude. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And then when I come out of it, I can be so productive.
Yes. Yeah. It's because of that solitude and because you are rested that you're able to have your personal field intact. It's there's an integrity in your field, and you don't jump to the assumption that because somebody spoke a certain way, they're thinking a certain thing about you, that you don't let it become personal,
Right.
that you're able to stay in your values, that you're able to speak up and ask the question, because sometimes that's what we need to do, even is ask and say, okay, why is this happening? Is there a problem? Do you think this? Do you? Sometimes it's what we need to do, is have the conversation, is
exactly
why is this happening? Because lots of times and people will not, there are people who don't want to have the conversation. You can ask the right questions and try to have these conversations, and people will give you the, oh no, everything's fine,
right,
and then run when really not everything's fine, and that was their opportunity to stay in their value too. But they don't trust it because most people don't mean it when they ask. Most people don't really want to hear.
No.
And that's what they assume, because we've been brought up to know. Most people ask you, how are you? But they don't really want to know how you are. So you say,
fine.
Right. Right. So there's all of those things. But once we realize we're truly with somebody that there is a level playing field. And that's what I love, because you said, I'm a co-walker. But what you did with Shift is you found something that leveled the playing field first, because people aren't going to co-walk with you till you leveled that playing field.
Right.
Because you could tell them that all day long. Okay, come on, I'm going to walk with you. We're going to do this together. But until you found that common language, that way to level the playing field, because I know for years, I've told people online, my pages are open for cross promotion. My pages are open for cross promotion. But most people that I dealt with, that they didn't trust that. I had very few people that believed that and actually took my word and cross promoted with me. They would maybe contact me and ask, but most people didn't even do that. And I would find their stuff and I would be like, okay, why aren't you cross promoting? I mean it. And they're like, you really mean it, don't you? You really mean it. Because most people don't take us at what we mean. They don't see that, it's a level playing field. I mean it. I'm creating a level playing field here.
Right.
But most people don't want level playing fields, or that is the assumption anyway. We feel, but it's because we don't feel we deserve level playing fields. Even if somebody means it, because I think most people do mean it. It's within us that we look at the person who's saying it and we think, okay, they can't possibly mean that. I don't deserve to be on a level playing field with them. I don't deserve that.
Yeah.
I'm not worthy of that. So I think most people mean it when they say it. I think it's within us. We don't think they mean it. We assume they don't mean it. So we do it to ourselves.
We
I think most
right.
people mean it when they say it.
That
I
is a great insight. I
Yeah,
I
I assume most people, I assume that most people mean well, and that it's very
yeah,
few people that have ill intent. And
of
so,
course. Yeah.
yeah, and so, but we don't tend. We tend to not. We tend to think I don't deserve that goodwill. I don't
Right.
deserve for them to treat me as an equal. I don't deserve for them to mean to have me in their life, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm guilty of that one because I'll look at
Oh
it
yeah.
like, who am I for them to treat me as an equal? Who am I for them to want
Oh
me
yeah.
with them, et cetera, et cetera. And I can be as guilty of that as the next person. And when I catch myself doing that, I'm like, well, who am I for them not? Because I know I mean it when I say it to other people. So why do I think they don't mean it with me?
I struggle with that. I struggle that belonging. I usually don't feel like I belong in any group. And I've gotten to where sometimes at night I go, I belong, I belong, I belong. And of course, that's a third chakra thing. And that was one of the things that's helped me get rid of my stomach medicine.
Well, what that does, that serves as the mirror for us to
Yeah,
see what is it within me that I need to work on.
exactly. It's
Whatever that is that's
great.
causing us to feel like they can't possibly mean that, we need to look at that and say, okay, so what is that showing me about me? Because all we can fix is us anyway.
Perfect. I sometimes I think too, everybody thinks it's a zero-sum game. If I promote you, that means I'm taking something away from me and giving it to you. And that's that whole scarcity, like there's not enough. There's
Scarcity mindset, yes.
right, there's plenty for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Remember, it's expansive, it's limitless, it's effortless out there.
There are so many people who need different modalities, and there are people who need the way I do things. There are people who do not relate to how I do things. There are so many people who are going to relate to how you do things. I just want to help people. I
Right.
can't
That's awesome.
possibly I can't possibly help the people that are going to relate to how Shelly does things. And I
Right.
can't possibly learn every modality out there. So I
Of
don't need to learn Shelly's modality. I need to know about Shelly's modality and have Shelly on so all the people who are going to relate to Shelly know about Shelly. You know,
exactly.
and then when Shelly
Exactly.
runs into the people that don't relate to her modality but will relate to me, Shelly will tell them
Go to
about
Nature.
like,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, there's a great big world out there. We can't I can't take care of them all, and you can't take care of them
Of
all, and we know
course.
that. And that's how we have to see the world. And that's the other way around is a dog eat dog, me and my only, and scarcity mindset, and that's
Right.
yeah, that's just
That's
not
not
how it
helpful.
is.
That's
No.
not it's not true and it's not helpful. Right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Shelley, who co walks with people to help and committed to help others, she does that by getting up every day and letting her internal GPS or her guidance source
Mhm.
lead her. So,
Yep.
what does it look like? How do you do that? What is your process for that?
Literally, it's how I go by how I feel.
How you?
One of the things I do, I wanted to show this too. This is a tuning fork,
Oh, okay.
and it's a love tuner. It's set to the frequency of 528 megahertz, which is right about the heart frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And so it comes with a little thing. You ding it, and you set it. You take some breaths, and so every morning I kind of do this all over, make sure I get my pineal gland. And so I'm setting it up. And that's one of the first things I do every day, right? While I'm having my tea, before my husband goes to work, we tune up, we do our love tuning, right?
Yeah, you pull yourself into that frequency. I mean, I felt the frequency. Yeah, I felt it go right up. Yeah, and I just done my own frequency before we came on. So, and I still felt it pull mine up. So
Right.
yes,
And it's however I feel. And I'm not sure how to describe that other than I'll just get a thought, oh, I'm going to go work on this today. Oh, I'm going to go talk to this person today. And many days I have a full day with lots of meetings, and some days I don't have many meetings. And so I just see what's going to happen. And sometimes it'll come to me suddenly like, oh, I've got time for a bike ride. Let me get out on my bike. Right.
Right.
And so I just do that.
So you take inspired action.
That is another way to say it. Inspired action. And I worried when I retired from my career job that somehow I would just be sitting here. And oh no.
No.
It hasn't been like that at all. It's been magical. It's been a very magical thing. So, and I've met people like you.
Oh, well, Shelly, no, it's been my honor to meet you. So everyone can get a hold of Shelly at sacredgroundwalk.com, right? And I got it right. Yes. Okay. I'm always worried with sacred that I'm going to spell it scared.
Oh,
it always worries me. I'm going to transpose that and it's going to be scared. So sacredgroundwalk.com. And I do encourage everyone to touch base with Shelly, look at her website, check her out, because Shelly is exactly what you see here. She is a dynamo. She is high vibrational, and she is down to earth and just wonderful to work with and be around, and she will absolutely raise your vibrational frequency. And so, Shelly, thank you so much for being on today. And I know we're going to have you back because you became one of our Akasa Living Ascended. There's a little play on words there. So
yes, and I even know next time I'll give a little teaser. We're going to talk about how these tools can help a leadership team.
Awesome.
Da, 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 da.
Da, 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 da. I love it. Absolutely. I love it. Well, you all, until then, and until next time. Oh, and tonight at 7 p.m. live, I will be guiding intuitive guided meditation. So you have to be present for that. It's not going to be something I'm going to be replaying, because I feel the energies that are there, and based upon those is how I guide the meditation. So that'll be live. There's a Zoom link that's up on Facebook. It's on YouTube. It's so you'll be able to find it that way. So do join us for that. And Shelly, thank you so much for being with us.
Bless you, Misha. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Shelly.
Bye.
Live in great big capital letters. Always, you all. Bye.